Hi, it's Mel from Wildly Curious here. Today I'm going to show you how to make a bushcraft mallet. Your mallet will be useful for a few things when you're out and about bushcrafting. Battling wood is one thing it will be useful for, and also for processing fibres for making cordage. Here's what you're going to need. First of all, you need a saw, bushcraft knife, a pencil, and then something to hit with in place of a mallet. So I'm just going to use this log. First of all, you need to choose your piece of wood. I've got two long branches here. The top one is willow and the bottom one is eucalyptus. I think I'm probably going to use the willow today. The eucalyptus is a bit thicker and is quite heavy. I'm just having a look at my piece of wood and deciding which part of it I want to use. This end is a little bit too thin. This end is perfect. I've cut it straight here already, and we've got a reasonable length here, which doesn't really have any knots or anything in it. So that is perfect for my mallet. What I don't want to do at this stage is to chop it into a mallet length. This is much easier to work with while it's left on this long branch here. I'll show you why in a moment. I've put my wood into my sawhorse, which is this piece of apparatus here, which holds the log nice and tight for when I begin to saw. If you don't have one of these, or if I was out working in the woods, I would just find a stump or something to work on, and I would put my foot, obviously have it lower than this, and I would have my foot on the log to stop it rolling around, and I would saw it like that. So don't worry if you don't have a sawhorse. The first thing I need to do is to decide how big I want my mallet to be. So when you have a mallet, you have two parts. You have the handle and you have the part where you hit things with, the head of the mallet. So my hand is about that big, so my handle needs to be at least that long. I would probably make it a little bit longer just for comfort, and then I'd mark that. And then for the head of the mallet, or the hitty bit, I'm going to go about that big. Okay, that's all marked up, so now I'm ready to get sawing. When you cut your wood to make a mallet, this is the cut that we put in first. The mallet ends up being made from one entire piece of wood. The handle isn't attached afterwards. It's all one piece of wood with the excess around here removed. So it's important to make this cut first. I'll show you how to do that in a minute, and not to cut through your log to make this length to start with. The reason for that is that this is quite a short piece of wood, and if you're trying to work on a short piece of wood or fit a short piece of wood into a sawhorse, the likelihood is it won't, and it will waggle around or fall out. So it's a really good idea to keep your log as long as you can for as long as possible, certainly until you've put in the cut that we're going to do here. So this is the one that we're going to do first. Here are my two marks that I've made. This one here is going to turn into my stop cut. So I've hung my log over the end of the sawhorse. When we saw on a sawhorse, we always saw off of the end of the sawhorse and not between two of the uprights. So this is where we're going to start. I can put my other hand here, safely out of the way of the saw. What I'm aiming to do is to saw down a little way all around the log. So I do a few cuts and then I turn my log around. The tricky bit is trying to get the lines to line up with each other. Don't worry too much about that. There we go. Now, to get our handle in the middle, we want to make sure that this cut is roughly the same depth all the way the ground, and we can do that by using the blade to measure. So if I put the blade in and look at how deep the cut is there. Turn it round, do another little check. Needs to be a bit deeper there. What you need to be really careful with here is not to go too far and get carried away and just chop off the end of your mallet. It's easily done. There we go. I think that's fine. That's a good depth. We can always make this saw cut deeper. What we can't do is put the wood back if we go too far. So now I've got my stop cut in going all the way round. I'm going to move my log up a little bit. Just get it sitting nicely in the sawhorse. And now we can go all the way through. As we start to get almost through the log, you'll hear the sound of the saw start to make a different noise. And what you can do then is just hold onto the log and just finish off your cut like that. And that just stops it tearing off the bark from this piece or this piece. There we go. So I'm just going to remind myself of which end is the handle and which end is the head of the mallet. I think this is the handle. So on the end here, I need to mark how big I want my handle to be. The bigger your hand is, the thicker your handle can be, but if you've only got little hands, then you don't want it to be too thick. There we are, that's just about in the middle, and I can see that quite clearly. Okay, so on my chopping block here, I'm going to stand the wood up like that so that I can see the circle. And then I'm going to use my knife and a log, as I haven't got a mallet yet, to hit on the back of the knife. If you haven't yet watched our knife safety video, it would probably be a good idea to do that before you start this. The technique that we're going to use is called battening, where we remove parts of the wood by knocking our knife down into the log. When you batten wood, it's a really good idea to put your knife into your non-dominant hand. Now I'm right-handed, so I'm going to use the knife in my left hand. The reason for this is because you want the control on the log or the mallet that you're hitting with. That's your stronger hand, whereas your non-dominant hand just has to hold the knife still. So if you can see, I'm going to start off by not trying to take off all of this wood here. I'm just going to start off by putting my knife here, and I'm using the part of the knife blade closest to the handle, and I'm just going to take off a little bit at a time. Now the stop cut that we put in earlier, there we go, should prevent my cut from going down into the head part of the mallet. So there we go. So now all I need to do is just to keep turning my piece of wood like that and taking more and more chunks off and getting closer and closer to my drawn circle. Now this willow is pretty freshly cut, so it's actually battening really, really nicely. Got no trouble at all getting those chunks of wood off. If this piece of wood was really knotty, we wouldn't want to be doing this with a knife. We'd probably end up breaking the knife. If it's one of these type, it's not what's called a full tang. A full tang knife, the blade, the metal of the blade extends into the handle. This is not a full tang knife. The blade part, the metal part, only comes up to about here. So you wouldn't use this to batten anything which was really knobbly or gnarly. But for this softwood, it's absolutely fine. Okay, so I've taken off all of the bark around the outside now. So now what I can do is start to put my knife much closer to the circle that I drew earlier. And that should start to form the shape of the circle. Right, now, you can see what's happened here is this chunk of wood is not popping off quite as nicely as the other parts did. So I'm just going to take my knife out, and you can see that my stop cut that I sawed earlier hasn't gone quite deep enough for this split to pull the wood off. So what we need to do now is just put that stop cut in on this part just a little bit deeper. Let me grab my saw. Okay, it's just there. So I'm going to use my, let's hang it over this side, I'm going to use my foot on here because now my mallet is too short to put in my sawhorse. And I'm just going to saw into that stop cut again until that bit pops off. There we go. And I can continue to do that if I find there are any more pieces that won't come off. There we go. Right, we're almost up to the drawn circle now. I don't know if you can see that at the moment the mallet is not very comfortable in my hand. It's got lots of sharp corners and ridges. So what we can do to get rid of those, clear a little bit of space, is we can now swap the knife back into our dominant hand. We're going to use the part of the blade closest to the handle again, and we're going to keep the fingers of our other hand well away from dangling down here. So I'm just going to bunch my hand like that and work like this. So I'm going to start about 2/3 of the way up here, and on this corner just going to push down like this and take off that corner. There we go. And then turn it around, do it on the next corner. If I don't think my handle's looking very even, I can just take off a little bit more. There, that is looking much better. So now I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to do the same for the end. Now, because I'm going to end up with my hand going down this way, what I don't want to do is bang my knuckles on the chopping block here. So I'm going to work right on the edge of my chopping block so that as I bring the knife down, my knuckles are not going to whack onto the wood. When you think your mallet handle is beginning to look about the right shape, pick it up and just test it in your hand. I can still feel that there are a couple of bumpy bits down there, so turn my mallet round and just work on those. There. Okay, my handle feels really nice now. That feels good. What I also like to do to my mallets is I like to just chamfer this edge here. That's because when you hold it, it's more comfortable than having this very sort of right angle here. And the way I do that is I'm going to use a push cut. So the thumb of the hand that's holding the mallet is going to go on the back of the knife handle, or on the back of the blade if your thumbs aren't very big. My knife is going to be at a slight angle, so about 45 degrees to the wood, and then I'm just going to push and turn, push, turn the mallet round, push. Just keep turning it, keep pushing it until you've taken that corner off all the way around. So our mallet is finished. What we could do here is, if we want to be able to hang it up somewhere, we could drill a hole in here and put a piece of cord through it, which is what I've done to this one here. So here are our finished mallet. You can see I've drilled a hole in, stuck a bit of paracord through for hanging it up there. Here are some other ones that we've made over the years. They're all in different sizes, so that if you're battening using an axe, you could use a bigger, heavier mallet there. This one has been made in a different way as well. All the pieces of wood that I chopped off here I can dry out and use for kindling, and all the shavings can also be dried out and used as tinder. Whenever I'm given any wood, I'm always on the lookout for lengths which are about this thickness and have a section in that is relatively knot-free and is fairly straight as well. Mallets are always a useful tool to make. This is willow, which means it's fairly soft, which probably means that this mallet isn't going to last all that long. Once it's been used, you know, for perhaps a year, it will have worn out. But that's fine, because, you know, we'll just make another one to add to the collection. So thanks for watching the video today, and don't forget to like and subscribe.